Greetings, brothers and sisters. Wednesday, January 8th. This is a video that will be up on Friday. Just completing a video. It's rendering right now to go up tomorrow. And I have a video that's already up there that I'm going to release in a moment. But in terms of this, this is why I have to talk about this right away. I don't know how much of my video I'm going to make today. But I was going through the comment section, right? And YouTube has long been giving me suggestions of how to answer my comments, right? And so somebody wrote a comment, "Thank you, brother Paul!" Exclamation point. You're welcome, but don't forget to share it with your friends who may need this, right? And the other one was, "I appreciate the love, but just don't call me brother. Just Paul is fine." This was they've like upgraded their AI response to my comments. See if there's any more of them here, and it's great. Like it's just wonderful. This one here. Um, I share all your videos to my Facebook, and I notice a friend sharing your membership videos today. Yay to new members! And so the person says the response to this was, "I appreciate that you share my videos with others. We have to get the word out as much as possible." Things I would never say, right? Um, let's see what else was. It's not all of them. It's just some of them have the. I'm going through these things and um, these things here. Let me see if I find any more. Oh, here. Great intro. Gave me good insight to a perfect prediction for 2025 year of chaos. Perfect for things that are starting out. Definitely a shit show in the media. This was from a video of 2025, the year of. I'm glad you enjoyed the intro and agree with the year of chaos prediction. That's very specific. Like, what's up? Um, I hope you check back with me in a few years so we can laugh about how right we were. This is wonderful. We got to keep on going. Let's see what else they got to offer. I mean, they're definitely more sophisticated. They're still so mechanical, and I would never say any of these things ever in my life. That's the great thing. Dear Paul, I feel the message of late have been directed to me and have been very encouraging. Thank you for what you do, you and your channel. And the bot writes, "It's been a rough year for lots of us. Even the elite have, even the elite have had their share of problems." Holy shit! That's what the bot said. And this person didn't say anything about the elite. And they put elite in, like this person, this bot knows. See, this is the thing. This is the thing about their search engines. Like, this is how fucked up this thing is, right? That their search engines have been gamed to not give us what we want. But this bot knew to call the. Of course, I'm not an elite. This person doesn't. The bot doesn't get my channel. But I don't talk about the elite. I call the controllers. And I just finished a voiceover on the end of my last video where I talk about blaming the elite is just such a lame and a dishonest thing to do. Like, the elite aren't responsible for everybody's problems, all these things. The elite suck. There's no doubt they suck. And I think I know more about how they suck than other people. But they're not, it's easy to blame everyone else for your miserable life, right? And I get into this. You either heard it or you didn't. And the second comment, I try to keep it light and humorous. The messages will always find you when you are ready. Again, just bizarre shit that's going on here. Let's see if there's any more here. Here's another one. What a beautiful place you have. Glad to hear things have resolved themselves. It seems people are drawn to what was on the surface. I guess that's why we get duped easily. Not anyway, but for the people, but most people enjoy the Dom Lemon bit. Just so people know, not all the pictures I use are things that I take at my place. Like, we travel and things like that. But yeah, so I'm not sure what picture she's responding to. But anyways, I'm so glad you enjoyed the Don Lemon bit. It was nice to get back to the original video. It was nice to get back to the original video. I'm not sure what that was in reference to. Okay, let's do one more if there's any more here. But I'm gonna, I can do these more often if you guys find them interesting. Like there doesn't seem to be these. That was a new thing. Like they just did that. That was the last of them. Then I'm getting to comments I already hearted, and there's no other ones. But just spectacular, right? Their bots are, they got a whole new thing they're doing. It is better, but it's not good. It still sucks, right? And if they know this kind of sophisticated way of responding to people, these AI bots, but they, are watching my video and they can't do it in my voice. Like they don't know me or get me or know how I would respond. Like it would be scary if they did things that I would say, yeah, I would totally fucking say that. Like imagine if these were things that I totally would say. you know, like that would be so creepy. Like that would be like I would no longer need to exist because the bot could just create these things for me. Like if they could actually say the thing that you were going to say. Of course, I'm so socially inept. I don't think the bots could ever figure out what I would say or what I would do. But if they could, that would be fucked, right? Anyways, I'll continue on. This is just a brief introduction. Okay, so a lot has happened. I want to cover more of these comments in my next video than the introduction. The AI generated comments. It's Friday, January 10th, almost 8 o'clock at night. And so I started this on Wednesday, did a little bit more yesterday, and then, I've been busy with some stuff. This video is not going to be out, I think, till Saturday morning. And I get into the wildfires, and I come back and do an update and stuff with Sunny Hostin, and then a whole bunch of stuff here with Biden and Trump. I mean, the thing's a mess. There's too much for me to cover. And I got this big Don Lemon bombshell next video. Okay, so I was going to start with the Trump talking about Palestinian people and Israel and all these things. We'll get to that. A bunch of other stuff is broken, these various stories. Biden told U.S. Today today, Biden admits he might have been too old to have served a second term, another term. Biden told the U.S. Today, who the hell knows? So far, so good. But who knows what I'm going to be like when I'm 86 years old? When asked if he could have been healthy enough to serve another 4 years, he said he had stayed in the race and beat President-elect Donald Trump. Jesus, just get with the quotes here. Because they're dragging this thing out. The president insisted, Howard, that he could have beat Trump, and it's unclear what the polls he was referring to as the major national surveys consistently showed Trump leading in the wake of Biden's disastrous June debate performance. Anyways, so he's got Parkinson's, and he's he's going to exit from our lives pretty soon and never to be seen again. Okay, so in no particular order, let's start here with this. Senator John Barrasso, a Republican from Wyoming.
Mr. President.
The majority whip is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, 2 months ago, the American people gave Republicans a clear mandate. It's a mandate to get America back on track. Senate Republicans won
Make America great again.
53 seats. The House of Representatives, Republicans in the majority. And President Trump won a historic victory. He won
historic it was historic.
All 7 of the battleground states, and he won the popular vote.
So when I was a kid, Nixon beat McGovern in every state but one. I forget what that one state was, and beat him in his home state. It was a complete drubbing.
The victory was decisive. Starting this week, Republicans are going to begin to deliver on the mandate. Just heard the minority leader in the Senate talking about what are Republicans going to do to help the American people. I want to talk about that because I want to contrast it to what the outgoing president is doing right now and using his final days in office.
What is it, John Barrasso?
The Democrat president who is leaving is trying to put in place left-wing dangerous policies that have been rejected by the American voters, and policies that are going to make it more expensive for American voters to live their lives.
No way. What's he doing, bro?
These policies will make America less safe, less prosperous, and more vulnerable.
What are these policies you speak of?
These aren't policies that the American people voted for.
They didn't vote for those kind of policies.
It seems that the lame duck president is working overtime to undermine the American values and the demands and the wishes of the American people. The outgoing
He ain't
president
working overtime.
has actually had his administration sign contracts with government unions so government workers have the right to stay home from work, maybe pretending that they're working while still getting paid.
That sounds like bullshit to me, bro. Barrasso.
For a job that they're supposed to be doing. To make matters worse, this past Monday, Joe Biden banned American energy production on...
Okay, so he's accusing Biden of malicious sabotage. Nobody gives a shit. So this is Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader with Nancy Pelosi's old position, Democrat in New York.
Hey, Jeffries, thank you. What kind of dialogue have you had with the incoming administration, the incoming president, especially given that he'll be on the Hill later today?
It's not my expectation to have any conversation at any point today, but we are looking forward to the dialogue to come in the next few weeks and thereafter to find the common ground necessary in order to get things done for the American people. House Democrats believe that we are not sent to Washington to invade Greenland, rename the Gulf of Mexico, or seize the Panama Canal by force. We were sent to Washington.
Boom. You're not agreeing with Trump trying to acquire Greenland? I didn't know he's trying to rename the Gulf of Mexico. It's going to be the Gulf of Texas? What does he want to rename it? Don't tell me I could look it up. It doesn't matter.
To lower the high cost of living in the United States.
Okay, so that happened. Okay, so there's major wildfires, which you guys probably all know about. Today is Wednesday, January 8th. So this video won't be up till Friday. And so, I don't know what will be happening with the fires by then. I'm not going to cover this very much. So they're dropping that bullshit out of that helicopter, water or whatever it is, fire suppressant. See, the issue is that, I lived in New Mexico and in Utah and in Nevada and Idaho. Brief periods of time, not very long, total of like 5 years. Like living out in the West, interesting place. Didn't really feel like it was home, but magical place, very interesting. And I would like to go back there and went to California, went to the Redwoods. That part of California is spectacular. California is a magical state as well if you get rid of the cities and all the bullshit there. But America's a wonderful country, just spectacularly beautiful. So many great things. I've been to so many different places in America going, oh my God, this place is incredible. Just and just around the world in general. And we have a beautiful world here. And so, natural world. But in the West, they have forest fires. So I was living near the north face of the Grand Canyon. So most people go to the south face. I'd gone to the south face. That's where there's 20,000 people a day and it's crazy and crowded. The north face is a little bit higher and way less populated. I love it out there. That's my favorite part of the Grand Canyon. And when my family and I were driving there, this is back when my wife and I were just getting together, was living in Utah, we were driving by a place where there were these forest fires, and you see these ponderosa pines and these various pine trees, and they're just like matchsticks that have been burnt, sticking up in the ground. Some of them are on the ground, some of them are still upright, and the whole place is just burnt to the ground, right? And this is caused by them stopping forest fires. Sometimes they do these things called intentional burns. I talked to this guy who knew a lot about this stuff. And, as far as I know, he was, right about these things. But, every once in a while there would be these forest fires, but the forest fires would block other forest fires, right? And it was sad because one of the guys I used to work with, he was a ex-football player that loved hiking. This is when I lived in New Mexico, up in the Jemez by Los Alamos, right? By Santa Fe, Los Alamos, where the national lab is. And they got this place called the Jemez. And, it's a reservation area and national park and wonderful place to hike. And he went up there, like, after the wildfires, and he said, this place I've been hiking for years, everything's burnt down. Now it's just like a desert, right? And, the burning of these trees, it unleashes new growth, and you have fields for a while, and the elk and the things come in, and wild turkeys, and then the trees start to sprout, and the quick-growing trees and the shrubs, and, there's a cycle there. But if you prevent the fires from happening, see, when you have a forest fire, another forest fire will land on where it's already been burned, and it won't be able to go through it because there's no fuel for it. So the forest fire dies out. But when you suppress these forest fires and you move the water around to civilian areas, I mean, there's, to cities and things, there's water that's being taken out of the rivers and the aquifers there. And so it's even drier in these natural forest areas. And so this is what's going to happen. There's going to be some massive forest fire that just could burn through homes and cities. And, at some point, the whole place could burn down, right? And another thing was when I was living in New Mexico, there was a forest fire in like the Houston area. And we were getting smoke from it, like lots of smoke. And so these things, the air quality can just totally go south if you have a major fire. I mean, this happened with the Dust Bowl as well. So these are not, again, the chaos thing, right? And we've already seen a lot of bullshit already. There's been a couple more plane crashes since the last time I talked about it. I got another UFO thing to show you. I mean, things are like already, things are already cooking. Trump is not looking great. Like, he's definitely gotten old. He's not, Joe Biden-esque yet. I mean, he's still, relatively coherent, but he's starting to slip up and make mistakes. And I was covering how he made some answers I agree with, my last video. I'll when someone does something that I think is a good thing, going in the right direction. But one of his biggest problems is his attitude towards Israel, because he's owned by Israel, and his allowing a genocide to happen, right? He's been really good on the wars in his previous administration. Like, he stopped all those wars, and, he didn't start more wars. I mean, he talked a big game, but he wasn't murdering innocent people around the world. But his position on Israel and Palestine is atrocious.
Order are you planning to do on executive order when it comes to immigration? And how much do you want Congress to tackle this issue? And also on day one,
well, I had the safest border in the history of our country.
The safest fucking border. It's just so safe. In the history of the country, the border was never safer than when Trump was president.
You remember the famous chart that I brought down? I love that chart very much. For
the chart saved his life. Remember, you guys, when he didn't get shot in the ear by the imaginary bullet?
But I have the safest border by far.
By far.
In the history of our country. And when I took it over, it was a mess. Nothing like it is now. This is 10 times worse. I got elected because of the border the first time, and I think I got elected largely because of the border the third time. And the second time I did equally well. Well, not as well.
That's the kind of stuff that Trump, really, I like when he does shit like that. Like, I knew he was going to have to say something about the second time. I'm waiting for it, right? You just know he can't let it go.
Well, it's the last time, but I did very well. And I will say, this was too big to rig. You know the expression? Too big to rig. They couldn't do it. They tried, but they couldn't.
I don't know that expression. It's the first time I've ever heard it. I think you just made that up because it had to do with you.
Do it. I didn't get very much from Congress at all. I just said that we're being invaded, and I took the money out of the military. Much of the wall, I built over 500 miles of wall. Much of that wall was built through money that I put into the military. We took it out because we couldn't get things from Congress in those days, and we took it out.
So I just laundered money through the military to build my wall because I couldn't get Mexico to pay for it, like I promised. This is the kind of stuff that makes me crack up about Trump. The next part isn't, though.
Out, and that wall was built largely with money coming from the military. So, very simple. I went to the military. I said, our country is being invaded by very similar. Nothing.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats.
like what's invading our country now. They weren't releasing prisons into our country, and they weren't releasing mental institutions in, but some bad dudes were coming in.
Bad dudes. Corn Pap was a bad dude.
And I said, our country is being invaded. And I took that money largely from the military. I was sued 9 times by the Democrats in Congress, and I won all those suits. And we ended up building 571 miles of wall. Once that wall was built, they start going around it. So we're going to add it.
It's funny, or they dug tunnels under it. You know, the wall, in fact, was just absolutely not even an obstruction at all because, you know, the tunnels and the going around thing and, you know, the fact that they already had tunnels before you put the wall up.
Another 200. That would have been up in 3 weeks. And then we had a very unfortunate election result. And they said, we don't want to put it up. We'll sell it. And they started selling it for 5 cents on the dollar. What a second. So we'll do this again. I just want to thank.
What do you mean they're selling that? How they sell your wall? They sold this wall? They sold your fucking wall, bro?
Thank everybody very much.
Do you even lift, bro?
I'm just telling you, this will be the golden age of America. This is the golden age of America.
It's coming right now, the golden age. You know, like the fact you have a golden toilet is like...
Great country again. We're a country right now under siege. We have so many different problems, and nobody respects us overseas, but now they do. The Italian prime minister, as you know, came here the other night, just flew in and flew out. She wanted to see me. And great respect is being shown when I went to the cathedral in France. Great respect was shown by the prime minister, the president, by everybody. France was, and by the way, I have to say they did a great job in the cathedral.
The wonderful cathedral, those French, man, and their fucking cathedrals.
But great respect is being shown to our country again. And we have a great country, but we have to run it properly. It's going to be run properly. We want to get back those hostages for Israel and for us. You know, we do have people that are hostages being held. And I'll just say it again. If this deal's not done with the people representing our nation, by the time I get to office, all hell is going to break out. Thank you very much.
Okay, so it said here, Trump promises apocalyptic consequences if Hamas hostage is not released. I feel cheated by the title because all he said was all hell was going to break loose. But, you know, like, it isn't about Hamas. We already know this. You know, they're an asset of Israel more than likely, and to whatever capacity, Israel wants all of Palestine, and Trump's going to give it to them because he sucks like that. But again, Forbes, they put up this video, and they cheated on the title. Okay, so Twitter recommended this to me. It was a 7 seconds video, and the caption of the tweet was, what on earth did Fox just capture on video? And I was lucky I remembered that because, you know, they post these tweets, they play the video and then they go to something else and it disappears and there's no way to get it back. Like there's no history. I don't, you know, unless there is on Twitter. I don't know how to use Twitter. Maybe that's it. But if it isn't, then, you know, it sucks. But I was luckily I remember the title. I was able to find it. And let me just turn this down here. And so you see here, this is the forest fire. You see this thing coming out of here, and it's like looks like a missile. See this? We'll let it go again. It's going to come out of here, and it's like, well, you know, I don't think that's anything coming off the forest fire. I don't think it's an extraterrestrial either. I don't know what it is, but you know, they got something there. There it is. Guy who said Facebook was not suppressing free speech announces Facebook will stop suppressing free speech. This is from the internet. You know, I don't think that's really fair to Mark Zuckerberg, Mark, because the reality is he never wanted to suppress it because it was bad for his business, first and foremost. And then whatever else Facebook stood for. And none of these guys want to give up control of their platform. But they were threatened, right? They're going to pull that section, whatever it was, 231 or whatever. Biden threatened to pull that, which would bankrupt his business and all these other businesses. And so they forced them to censor. And then they had people, in terms of the ad buys, the big corporations that weren't going to buy ads on their platforms. And so they were pressured. He had to go testify in front of the Congress and the Senate. And so, just in terms of his own business and wanting to do things his way, he didn't want to censor. None of these guys did. Maybe Google a little bit more did. I don't know, that woman who ran YouTube. I mean, it's something where no matter what they say, they all know it's bad for business. When they game the search engines, so you can't, like, Facebook sucked way worse when things were censored, but the search engines were even worse than that when they recommended things to you you don't want to see. And there was a Netflix documentary about this, talking about how, they were trying to find, this documentary was pushing for censorship and saying the social media giants were trying to keep people on their platforms as long as possible because that's how they make their money. And so they would cater to these people's needs and recommend stuff to them that they wanted that was, to these people making the documentary was crazy conspiracy theories and things like that. But those are the things that really made Facebook and YouTube pop, right? It really helped to build those platforms because you couldn't get that kind of information anywhere else. And so now that they've suppressed that, they're not doing very well, right? People have left in droves, and they may or may not get those people back because they've gone to other platforms, and people, are happy at those other platforms. And so they got fucked by this whole thing. And of course they didn't stand up for free speech or push back, but it's unfair to say that the guy, of course he was going to lie and say he wasn't suppressing free speech because he had no choice because he was being forced like all the rest of these clowns. Anyways, The View co-host Sunny Hostin's surgeon husband, Emmanuel Hostin, I guess, accused of insurance fraud and bombshell lawsuit. One of my viewers sent me this. Of course, I really like to mock the ladies on The View, and Sunny Hostin's one of the worst. She's one of the worst at pushing the mainstream narrative. And now her husband, let's just assume he's guilty because it's fun to. He seems to be some successful surgeon, and he's committed insurance fraud, possibly. I don't know if Sunny, let me go check, see if she's talked on The View about this today. This is from yesterday, so I don't know if she's commenting on it today. Okay, so it appears that Sunny Hostin has not commented on her husband's stuff here, but she mentioned it here. Some guy named the Black Conservative found this and posted it.
Wait, hold on. Let Sunny get in here.
I agree with mostly everything that's been said. We know that, only about 31% of Americans trust our healthcare system. We have a terrible healthcare system. And
okay, so remember when they were talking about RFK Jr. and the blonde one said a bunch of shit about people not trusting the healthcare system and the healthcare system being flawed, and Sunny got really pissed off at that. Remember that when she did that shit? Sunny, like she was saying that the healthcare system was great and it saves lives and all this shit, right? But now she has to say it's broken because her husband's been double dipping.
Doctors suffer because of big corporations as well. Doctors that want to do good, like my husband, operates on someone even though they don't have insurance and then has to sue health insurance companies to get paid for the work that he's been trained to.
Okay, so what's happened, honey, Sunny? What's up, Sunny?
His whole life to do. So
what happened, Sunny? So she's alluding to this. So she's saying her husband, who is probably one of these prominent surgeons, is just doing free operations in hopes that some insurance company will pay him, and he's got to sue them, right? Because that's not how surgery works. Because it's surgery is very expensive. The operating room, the staff, all of it, right? About surgery. Surgery is one of the more expensive things. And insurance companies, right, if they don't pay, then you don't get operated on. And, he's not some altruistic doctor. I don't know anything about it, but we know he's being charged with fraud now. So she's now reversed herself, saying that the system's broken.
So there are a lot of problems with it. But the notion that we are in a violent country, this country was built on violence.
Okay, yeah. So All of them were. I mean, in terms of maybe Bhutan, Bhutan has their gross national product is happiness. And there's, Aboriginal cultures that were maybe passive, but people have been pretty shitty for thousands of years. And there's been passive people, but they always get absorbed by assholes. So, that's just how it is with people. And, whatever. But your husband's going to jail, bro. So, they were really hard on Trump and calling him a criminal. And now Sunny, it always comes back around.
The View co-host Sunny Hostin's husband, Emmanuel Hostin, has been accused of federal insurance fraud. According to a new lawsuit obtained by...
I bet it's because his wife is running his mouth. Trump and the Trumpers are very vindictive. So I bet that's what this is about. Because now Trump's coming in, all of a sudden, all these people are going to get served up.
The orthopedic surgeon was one of 200 defendants named in one of the biggest racketeer influence and corrupt organization cases ever filed in New York. Emmanuel was accused of federal...
Oh, it's New York. Fuck. It's not even federal.
Insurance fraud and, quote, getting kickbacks by performing surgery and billing a company that insured taxi companies and Uber and Lyft drivers. According to the documents, he knowingly provided fraudulent medical and other healthcare services, including arthroscopic surgeries. The insurance firm American
Sunny
Transit was then billed in exchange for kickbacks and other compensation, which were disguised as dividends or other cash distributions.
Okay, so if Sunny ends up commenting on this in the future, and you guys hear about it, please let me know, because this will be great. Like if the View ladies start getting theirs, picking them off one by one. It's a federal insurance scam that happened in New York, so I'm not sure if they're being federally indicted. If they are, and this is Trump going after people. And so, welcome to the Trump America of 2025. So when I was looking for that, I saw this. Not this. This. Facebook, Instagram, and fact-checking. Part 1. It's a two-parter. I don't know if we'll do 2 parts, but let's look at part 1.
Information and hate speech continue. Online misinformation and hate speech continue to plague social media.
No, they don't. They don't plague social media. They don't. They plague you guys who nobody wants to watch. They plague the mainstream media because you guys suck and nobody wants to watch you, and you're losing viewership. And the people who watch you are old audience who's dying out, boomers and such folk. And so they're dying out. And you guys suck and are butthurt about it because you're losing to the internets. It doesn't plague. People like it. People like the shit that's on the internet. The disinformation you guys put out there, just like Sunny slamming anybody who criticized the medical community until we found out her husband who's operating on people's feet and defrauding the government. And then all of a sudden it's not so funny.
Meta and Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg says he's following the footsteps of ex-owner Elon Musk by getting rid of third-party fact-checking on the site. Now,
wow, you guys are really upset by this. Okay.
Here's what he said yesterday.
We've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes.
We already saw this
with mainstream discourse. We used to have filters.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. They're allowing people to express themselves on the internet again. Oh, boy.
I'm just curious because human rights activists warn that this is a major step back that'll have misinformation, conspiracy theories, and bigotry running wild on the site.
It's going to be the dark ages again. I mean, it's going to be horrible. When just allowing people to just talk shit on Facebook that bothered nobody because, it bothered people, but just in the sense of they would go at it or whatever, not that it affected anything, right? It's just mostly words. I mean, hate speech is hate speech, whatever you want to say about that. Stuff that arouses violence or incites violence, that's something that was already banned on all these platforms and all the criminal activity. But people just expressing their point of view, you're against that? I guess you are because you guys suck on The View and you guys have a very limited bandwidth, right?
Question is, when did fact-checking become a bad thing?
Since Donald Trump became president.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, you guys have figured it out. Let's figure it out. If you listen to what he said, the fact-checking was biased towards the left, and it wasn't real fact-checking, and people are bummed about it, right? You're outvoted here, ladies. Ladies! Woo! Boy, she's just so quick. I mean, the audience just loves her quick wit.
the worst thing that he has done is cause this misinformation and lying going on.
Alternative facts.
It's exactly because alternative facts, because people didn't lie before Trump, and politicians have always been honest.
Alternative facts that Kellyanne Conway, she said alternative facts. You know, this guy Zuckerberg, when I saw the movie, wasn't it Social Network?
Yes.
Okay, so you're trusting that movie to be accurate, a fictional movie. I saw the movie. I know all about him. I saw that movie that he disputes like 90% of it. He says there are a lot of things that aren't true in it, but I saw the movie, and that's not disinformation. That's real. It's a movie after all.
He says basically, I'm creating Facebook so people have a community, so that people can talk to each other. All of a sudden, it's become this big thing and a big lying machine that's going on.
There's a big lying machine over there in Facebook. It's just lie after lie after lie. You know, when you guys get plastic surgery, that's dishonest, right? Your face is your fucking face, your reptilian fucking face is dishonest. Dishonest eyes here, dishonest here, dishonest here. There's a little bit of honesty here, but up here, not so much. Honesty here, up here, not so much. Very little honesty up here in the noggin.
And, you know, the wokeness is what at the bottom of this.
Yeah, I just want to say...
What do you mean the wokeness is the bottom of this?
I'm sorry. If being woke is a bad thing, that means that the fact that I care about you, regardless of what you say or who you are, I want to make sure your family is as well off as mine is. That's too woke. It's too woke for me to say to you, hey, listen, if your kids...
Do you guys actually know what woke is? It's too woke. It's just too woke. Wokeness is just about caring about other people's families.
You don't want your kids reading this. Maybe the best thing to do is let's go to the library together, and I'll tell the librarian what I don't mind my kids reading, and then you can tell the librarian what you don't want your kids to read. That's too woke.
Well, the new rules on...
What? What are you talking about? The internet is not the library, right? You understand that? And what you're talking about is book burning, which I thought the woke people were against.
Of Facebook, they're imperfect. I will say this. I think it's a balance between content moderation, free speech, and fact-checking. And what I think...
You know, it's none of those things. You guys imposed that shit. Now it's over with, for at least for now. And it's a form of censorship. You know, when the right wing censored... You know, when the right wing was in control of the so-called facts and that, you know, religion was more important than science... And the hippies went nuts and complained about all these things, rightfully so. And they pushed back against the conservative hierarchy, and they got shut down. And you guys were all bummed about that. All liberals were bummed about that, right? And so now the tables have turned, and now they've turned again, right? It's funny how those tables are always turning, and now you guys are on the outs again. But either way, your show sucks, and it's a dinosaur. I mean, I can't imagine how do people watch this shit, right? And watch it and be like, oh, wow, these guys, these gals. I mean, it's the same thing with Don Lemons. Like, I can understand maybe, agreeing with some of the points, but thinking that this is bombshell, content, like this is cutting edge content, right?
Facebook has gotten wrong for some time is they've had third-party fact checkers, but then Facebook Meta would ultimately make a decision on can this content be on. Oftentimes fact checkers can't, or these staffers at Facebook can't have biases. I actually think, listen...
They do, and they are, it started with Snopes. The guy was married to his partner, his business partner, and then he cheated on her with some whore, a little prostitute, which he ended up marrying, or a stripper or something, in Vegas. They had to split up Snopes, and it was completely compromised, and he was just making shit up, and it had all kinds of liberal bias. Remember? The whole thing. I wonder what happened to that whole thing. I mean...
has become a hellhole for a lot of reasons,
but I think that
community...
It's a dumpster fire. Did you say dumpster file? Is it a dumpster file? Like your husband's a dumpster file?
Some people see a dumpster fire and do nothing but watch the spectacle. Some are too scared to face the danger, or they think it will benefit them if they just let it keep on burning. Others shrug and say, oh, all this talk of a dumpster fire, it's just fake news. There is an inferno raging in Washington. But here in the land of 10,000 lakes, We know how to put out a fire.
I am Richard Painter, and I approve of this message.
A lot of reasons,
It's
but
a
I think
dumpster
that community.
Look at how bum's funny it is. It's a dumpster fire. You know, Sonny, I found out from mainstream media your husband's being indicted. And there's a dumpster fire over there. She's just over it. Look at how bummed she is, right? I mean, they must be going through it. They know they're screwed, trying to cut a deal. And what happens, she's going to look like a piece of shit.
Notes actually work. You have to
I
cite
don't
your
understand.
source.
Let me interrupt you. What does free speech have to do with fact checking?
Because it's imperfect. It's not as simple as the sky is blue, the grass is green. We know the facts on that. Sometimes it comes into opinions or viewpoints. This is still a town square. I tend to be a free speech absolutist as long as it's not harming someone
But we
else.
know the difference between an opinion and a fact. We do
No,
it
but
every day.
a lot of this can be.
Do you really? Do you? When you're told things by the government, those aren't facts. When you're told things by the people at ABC or your so-called fact checkers, most of those things are not fact. And even if they are facts, they're not necessarily real facts, right? Like they're just, I mean, she's really stupid and she's getting old. And so it doesn't, things don't get better. Stupid doesn't get better as you get older. I mean, being dumb does when you're young. And then stupid though, stupid gets worse with age.
Viewpoints where somebody could say, well, this is my viewpoint on it, and there were moderating things around language you used around certain issues. But to the point I was saying, community notes actually work. They have to be cited to sources. My issue is the algorithms. These tech companies are run by...
Community notes don't work when people just ignore them. The people who read things on the internet or watch things on the internet that are so-called conspiracy theories to you guys and disinformation, those community notes mean nothing because they're coming from an authority we don't agree upon. I mean, there's such a huge gap between, I don't know how much they know or how much it's just bullshit or they believe in what they're saying. And I don't know how stupid they actually are or it's just, an act they have to put on. But, Jesus.
Billionaires. They're completely unaccountable. Congress hasn't regulated tech in over 30 years, and they can push what you're seeing more of. They can hold back what you're not seeing, and
You mean like what YouTube did when they gamed their search engines? You piece of shit, right? Do you not realize how that's affected me and so many other people in terms of what we wanted to view and in terms of our channels and things? Because YouTube is like, no, we know what you're looking for, but we want to give you this instead, right?
is the biggest issue, but we can complain about it all we want. We need to tell Congress that they need to also get involved.
Oh, yeah. You guys actually tell Congress because they'll be all about this now that they're moving towards the right. Tell them how upset you are. Congress will listen to you.
Absolutely do. The misinformation, the World Economic Forum listed misinformation.
The World Economic Forum.
Misinformation is the most severe short-term threat globally.
Mm-hmm. Boom. That's what they did. Do you guys talk to your audience who the World Economic Forum is? They're just an authority, right? This has always been about what you trust as an authority. It always has been, always will be. But when you say the World Economic Forum, holy shit, the World Economic Forum said that? The World Economic Foreman? Because you guys are not for men.
So by removing these fact checkers, I understand the concern was, and Joy, this might answer your question, there were some conservative viewpoints that were being taken down. So these fact-checking industries...
Look at Joy. She's just like a puppet now.
...started right in 2016
like
when President Trump was elected the first time.
She's like a fucking Muppet.
It would be something like when there were debates on masks or shutdowns, they were taking these things off of the site, which... As someone who could have debated that, these people were saying you're taking our content off of this site. But there's a difference between Alex.
Is that allegedly or?
Allegedly.
Is that factual?
She's just depressed and bummed. Look at her.
That's their conversation. Yeah, there are reports, there are things they took off. But the bigger point here is there's a difference between Alex Jones spewing hate, disgusting, false, and having a difference of opinion. But either way, I'd rather have them get it wrong occasionally with a screen door between free speech and say anything you want. So I'm frustrated.
What do you mean by screen door?
That they did this because social media is already on the downgrade, and he pretty much admitted
it's on the downgrade. Look out for social media. It's on the downgrade, folks.
This because of President Trump.
You know, I'm going to just reject the fact that we don't know what a fact is.
Really?
I reject...
You know what facts are? It's fact that your husband's indicted. I saw that in the mainstream media.
Outright.
No
There
one's
is a difference
suggesting that,
between opinion and fact. And there is, journalists,
Under investigation, I should say.
like people that are, work for the New York Times, they know how to fact check.
Yeah, they do. They know how to get to the facts. They know how to go to the government and the World Economic Forum and ask them to tell them what the truth is, what the facts are, and then they tell you guys those very same facts, and you guys don't accept those facts because there's something wrong in your noggins.
Journalism students are taught you fact check 3 different sources.
Journalists have gotten things wrong, though.
So this
That's
notion,
happened throughout
but
history.
this notion that
These guys, the 2 other ladies now, I think are a little bit Republican, and now they're getting on Sonny's nerve.
The reason that they're doing this is because they can't fact check it.
But free speech gives you a right to be wrong. I have a right to post something that's inaccurate.
Okay, look, they're getting into it.
I have a right to say the grass is blue.
Are different.
That shouldn't be taken down simply because it's fact.
Disinformation and facts are different things. They're not the same. Facts and disinformation are not the same thing.
Information is different. And so I think what you're finding is this company is also getting rid of content restrictions on topics like gender identity and immigration. Calling women, by the way, household objects is now permitted on Facebook.
No way. Fuck. They're going to let you do that? They're going to call them household objects?
You think it shouldn't be as much
Users
household
are now
objects?
allowed to, for example...
but calling your wife a household object on Facebook is not permitted in your house. Like there's other social constraints here because you have Facebook friends who are going to be like, what the fuck, bro? Like if you go on Facebook and call women household objects and see how that goes, right? Like see how that works out for you, Sunny. Okay, so this is part 2. I didn't think I was going to go to part 2, but Sunny's so bummed, like she's so depressed.
I just wanted to put a button on what I was saying. There's a difference between free speech and hate speech, and we know that.
Okay, but hate speech it's the fact that you guys are the authority defining it. You're not happy that Trump and his people are defining these things now. That's the difference. It's subjective. It's based in the powers that be. Because hate speech in itself, when you guys were demonizing anti-vaxxers, was that hate speech? That sounded like hate speech to us. Or when you guys demonize so-called conspiracy theorists or people don't believe the official story. And it's the most dangerous thing right now, according to the World Economic Forum. Like, it's just bullshit, right? I mean, it's just silly. They're just shills for the dopes out there.
Free speech, I welcome. I think everyone welcomes. It's your constitutional right. When you start delving into hate speech, which is what is happening all over social media, there's a problem with that. When you start delving into misinformation and disinformation, there's a problem with that. Meta's new hate speech guidelines permit users to call people in the LGBTQ plus community mentally ill. That is harmful. That is harmful.
Okay, so let's just move on. It's just the view. You can only watch so much of it and just like start sucking your energy. But Sonny's bumming, and in reality, your husband fucking did criminal shit. If these allegations are true, right? And you can't walk that shit back. Like I want to talk about I gotta check my alarm went off here. Okay, so I want to say this, a follow-up to the long voiceover I did on my last video, which I did this morning. And one thing that I left out was it's bad spiritually to wish bad things on people, right? Now, there's a part of me that will get happiness and joy if whatever happened to Sunny Hostin's husband and, her suffering and, all the bullshit, and if he did criminal behavior, and stuff comes of it and public humiliation. I'll cover it here. I'll make jokes about it. But I don't put any energy into wishing bad things on other people, right? Like I'm not going to be sad. Funny if Sunny Hostin gets whatever she deserves or these other people. But if they don't, when Alec Baldwin was potentially going to jail, I felt like the case was a little bit bogus. I mean, Alex certainly was somewhat accountable because he was the producer. And, who knows how real any of these things are. And he gave that disastrous interview, and him and his wife just kept on running their mouths and making it worse, which provided great content. And it became very celebrity-oriented and politicized in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where it seemed like they were charging him just because he was a celebrity and there was all this attention. So, and all those things, right? I don't know whether he deserved to go to jail just because he's a piece of shit and he doesn't agree with, he was just a nightmare in terms of his political views. Like, I wasn't bummed he wasn't indicted. I mean, I kind of feel like he probably didn't deserve to go to jail, although I don't know. Like, there might be some, who the fuck knows about any of these things, right? Like, I covered this like it's a show, and so I don't get invested in it. But even, people in my personal life that have wronged me, even someone like Dodgy, who's really done a horrible thing, if I believe in God, like I say all the time, I believe that God has a plan, and everything's accounted for. Like, that's one of the teachings of Sajmark's system. And if there is a God, there's consciousness, and that means that everything, everything that's ever done, like Santa Claus checking the naughty or nice list and seeing all your deeds and your actions and things, you're actually recording these things on a spiritual level, and they're with you as you go back to the spiritual world, and you have to pay for your mistakes and your transgressions. There's consequences, not in some sort of criminal justice system, but just in some divine accountability. And like I said in that video, the last one of the great teachings of Sajmark's system, and this is, other systems believe in this as well, that you created your present was created by you in your past. And so whatever you've done in your past has created your circumstances now, and what you're doing now will create your future. I've talked about, Tuesday Paul screwing over Thursday Paul. Like, we're oftentimes we're screwing over a future version of ourselves with our bad choices, right? And so if God is on it, if God is handling things, if there's a system of accountability, then why the fuck do I have to worry about it, right? And this is the whole thing about cursing people and judging people and thinking you have to impose your will, right? If God gives you instructions and you're supposed to administer something, I mean, if it's legitimate instructions, not something you just make up, imaginary interaction with God, but if there's a role you're supposed to fulfill, then you do it without, dispassionate way. I mean, that's the best way to do anything. But if you get into wishing bad things on people and your happiness is based in somebody else's suffering, and, you just, like, this is how it is on the internet, people are just like that. People who claim to believe in God or claim to believe any of these things, and they're miserable. Like, you suffer yourself, and everything you wish on somebody else, you're like wishing on yourself. Every curse you give, then you can yourself be cursed, right? Every negative thing, every horrible thing that you inflict on somebody else comes back around to you, and then you have to pay for that as well, right? I mean, so it's better to just, work on getting over the shit that's done to you, which inevitably happens. People are going to do bad shit to you, and it's going to be unfair or seemingly unfair. But if you created it in your past existence, then it isn't unfair, right? There's a reason you're experiencing something. Anyways, just want to add that. Let's get back to I have a few more things here. Orcas start wearing dead salmon hats again after ditching the trend for 37 years. A good fashion trend always comes back around. That's wonderful. I kind of heard about this, and now, orcas are a real trip. And so they seem to be the most intelligent. They're apex predators and all that. They eat great white sharks and shit, and attack boats. And so if we should be worried about any animal, it's the orcas. If they decide to turn on us, they could just, people be dropping like flies.
Excuse me, Buck? Hey, hi. Can you stop eating my holiday arrangement? You back off, buddy. Okay, Merry Christmas. Ho, ho, ho. No. Stop. No.
you know, it's kind of humorous, but in reality, that's this dude's food. Like, you're just using his food as a decoration. You know, like, and people have this thing about their own property, but in reality, like, this is like, you know, his you know, there's not much available in the wintertime. And you guys have this shit up and decorations. It's going to go bad and be a fire hazard. Okay, so I have a lot of videos on my pond I built. This little fish frog pond, and it iced over, you know, a bunch of times this year, and I just wanted to do a little bit of an update here. We got a bunch of other stuff to cover. I don't know if to throw this in here. Filling up the pond here, and I put some of the snow things into the creek, so this will melt, and this creek will be free from snow, so the chickens are now out and about. And we have to make way for some of it because it's starting to go over the banks here. Tulsi's drinking out of it. So see these birds tracks eating all these seeds here. And then this comes up into a waterfall. It's all frozen. So the shadow's getting in the way here. It makes these interesting shapes up top. And it's gonna get pretty cold for the next 10 days, like not above freezing. Today's melty a little bit because the sun's out, but it's still below freezing. Anyways, kind of cool. Just added water. You can see the fish in here. They go back and forth from freezing. There's some frogs in here. I don't think the frogs will be more active. This is the biggest fish we have in there. Puppers. Now I moved all that snow in there, eventually melted. So we have a free flow of water. Chickens can get access to it. They don't love walking on the snow, but we have other places for them to get water. We have some in their coop. So I just want to say something here a little bit. It's the morning of Thursday, January 9th. This thing, you know, there's wildfire news, 100,000 people being evacuated, and they're talking about it everywhere. And I just want to say, with all of our ability to control things, with all of our incredible machinery, I mean, you think about these machines, if you've seen any of these massive backhoes, bulldozers, these different types of earth-moving machines, and all the, you know, building machines and cranes we have, all these things, and then all the, you know, ways we have of moving water and all of it, our infrastructure. We can't do shit to stop these fires. And you know, when nature goes off, you know, like whatever it is, a hurricane, a tsunami, these wildfires, you know, just drought, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. Like with all the equipment, the helicopters and the planes and all the stuff they have at their disposal to fight these fires. In a place like LA where there's all this money and all this, all of it, and just across the whole western part of the United States, they have developed systems to deal with wildfires. It's been a problem for a while, and they can't stop it. They can't. People are leaving their houses, or you see the stuff around them and these houses, these neighborhoods and things. And when push comes to shove, nature always wins. Nature can move you out and destroy your, the things can sink into the ocean, or the earth can open up, and lava can envelop your. It's all these different ways that you don't have anything. You feel like you're in these these structures, these sound structures, and they all can be torn down or washed away or whatever it is. No matter how much you develop and how much control you have over the elements in terms of even like weather modification and things like this, nature always win. Like it's always just in terms of the fact that death is inevitable. There's no stopping any of these things. Like no matter how much you develop your technology, the power of nature, the power of the natural world will always be more. Like there's nothing you can do to stop these inevitable things, right? There were civilizations greater than ours, more sophisticated than ours, that no longer exist and there's no traces of them. And if there were, you would not be able to, see the level of technology they have. It would be like some small thing, right? But even within, 10,000 years, plastic, it's gone. Like there's things that are considered, that don't biodegrade. I mean, 10,000 years, everything's gone from a civilization. No traces of it. They dig up civilizations all the time that are just buried by, the accumulation of soil and things. And, they used to be on the top of the earth, and now they're, 30 feet below, whatever it is. Underwater, under the ocean, all these things. Anyways, just a few thoughts about the wildfires.
This might have been a bad idea, but Elon posted some super Israel Zionist propaganda, and I responded, for being so smart, you're exceptionally bad at understanding this one issue. It's kind of weird. And I got a lot of likes on that post, and he responded, like, what am I missing? And so naturally, I wrote a freaking essay about it, and it took 40 minutes to get 11K to 2K ratio on that. So here's some of my concerns. And right at the start, let's just be clear. I'm not saying that all Jews are in on some Jewish evil conspiracy to run the world, okay? That would be a straw man argument, and that's not what I'm claiming. We're talking about Israel here. And these are just some of the most obvious ones. First off, that AIPAC has purchased the seats of like 90% of our Congress.
So the guy says that, right? He talks about, this guy's name, Ian Carroll, talks about how that he doesn't believe that Israel and Jewish people are, conspiring to control the world. And then he goes through all this evidence showing exactly that, right? He mentions Ryan Dawson, who I've watched some of his videos years ago, and some other people. And he gets into, the big event 2001. He gets into, the war. I mean, just so many different things. It's something my wife sent me. I don't even have it. Some congressman talking about how everyone's came in to vote for Benjamin Netanyahu to not face criminal prosecution from these courts, these international courts. But the guy says just the opposite. I can't even show you it. It shows you that, because I saw this on Instagram. Instagram just isn't banning shit anymore because of what Zuckerberg just said. I don't know if this guy's stuff would be banned on YouTube. I think it still would. I don't know if YouTube's loosened up this much, so I'm not going to show you the whole clip, but his name's Ian Carroll, and most of the stuff I already knew, but some of it's, a little bit more detailed than things I knew before. Kind of interesting, but, it's just one of those things. And, of course, Elon Musk isn't going to, well, here, I say that here. So here, do you really think Elon doesn't know already? And dude, how are you still alive? Well, him saying that in the beginning was to get more views, because it made it sound like he was having an interaction with Elon Musk, which is, good strategy. I'm not faulting him for that, but that's why that happened. I'm sure Elon isn't going to respond, and if he did, there's nothing he could do because Trump and the Trumpers are owned by Israel, right? So that's already over. So, it is what it is. Another person writes, dude, how are you still alive? Well, because it doesn't matter. Like, there's no stopping this. There's no breaking of this relationship between America and Israel. And so there's going to be, pushback, censorship and things. But whatever. It's not, little video ain't going to stop this thing, right? It's never going to. I already know that. The truth community is basically worthless in terms of changing any of these dynamics in the world or any real change.
Passerby found the passport of one of the hijackers. Evidence this disaster scene is also a crime scene.
It was so distant from Ground Zero that a civilian found a passport lying in the street belonging to one of the suspected hijackers.
Okay, so this is the 9/11 Commission here. This is a public hearing, and this is what it says. Mrs. Susan Ginsburg, I'm not sure how she's related to this. Beginning with the passports, 4 of the hijackers' passports have survived in whole or in part. 2 were recovered from the crash site of the United Airlines Flight 93 in Pennsylvania. These are the passports of Zaid Jahir and Saeed al-Gandhi. One belonging to a hijacker of American Airlines Flight 11 This is the passport of Satem al-Saqui. A passerby picked it up and gave it to the New York Police Department shortly before the World Trade Center towers collapsed. A fourth passport was recovered from luggage that did not make it from the Portland flight to Boston on a connecting flight, the American Airlines Flight 11. This is the passport of Abdul Aziz Omari. Okay, so let's say there's lots of debris from the Pennsylvania one, right? We could say that's a possibility. Like there was, the Pennsylvania flight that was shot down and crashed in the field somewhere. There's going to be some debris. So, all right, maybe there's some passports that made it through there. But the other two, the first one, the guy who it was found on the streets of New York, right? So what they're saying happened is a plane crashed into the building. And then, a passport isn't just sitting on somebody's lap, right? It's in your pocket or in a backpack or, it's in some secure fanny pack, whatever it is, right? It's in something. Like passport isn't just sitting there in the open. That this passport flew out of the plane, fell out of the plane when it hit this building. Remember all the fireball and all the explosion? Because they're saying that this massive, explosions, that was the kerosene, the airplane fuel, that burns at 1,500 degrees, right? Remember that, the whole thing with that. That the fire that eviscerated everything on the plane, somehow the passport flew out of this guy's pocket or out of his, let's say if we put it in a carry-on bag. Like if I was traveling internationally, my passport would be in my backpack in a secured location, secured in the sense it's not open to falling out. And that would be stored in a, the above part of the plane where they put all the carry-on luggage. And or I've had it on a fanny pack or something like that, right? And so, you see your pocket, right? But you're not sitting there holding it, especially if these guys are engaged in things, right? They're engaged in a hijacking. And so, their passports would be wherever they are, right? Somewhere secure. They're not just laying there he didn't have his passport sitting on his seat while he went and did his hijacking stuff, right? And so it flew out of the plane that was burning up in a fireball, if you see the video evidence of what they're saying has happened. The videos they showed us, right? And so, come on. When I first heard that, this was a big part of if you guys are new to this, I just told my wife she didn't know about people who came in with the pizza thing or some other, came in later to the truth community, don't know all the stuff because all these videos were erased, right? There's so many of them. Like there was more 9/11 truth videos than anything else on any other subject matter for years. Like it was just everyone's making them. There was documentaries made. There was less professional, some very professional. There was all these different theories and all these things. Like a lot of them disinformation, but this thing, right? So, the passport found in New York City, which we'll get back to. The other one that was found in the luggage. So what I believe this is saying is that it never made it onto the plane, but you don't, when you check bags, these guys, why would they be checking bags? So how did his luggage not make it with him onto the plane, right? Wherever he had the passport in. And so that is highly suspicious. You need the passport to get through security, which was they still had security before that big event. Of course, it got worse afterwards, but there was airport security. And so these two things, for the first ones, I don't believe them, but it could be there. Maybe there's other people's passports, other people's documents that made it through the thing in Pennsylvania. Now, Pennsylvania, there was lots of debris. And so, yeah, whatever that is, right? I can't say, I don't know anything about that one. I can't, debunk that. It's not impossible. The passport flying out of the plane, that's impossible. And the one being discovered in a luggage that didn't make it onto the plane is, what's the story behind that? Create a narrative where that, chain of events, some, guy has a piece of luggage that he's bringing on a plane that he's never walking away from that plane, right? That kind of thing. And so, this very unlikely, and maybe there's some more to that story, I don't know. And the biggest one is the one that about the being on the street. And this was before the truth community. So they were a little bit more sloppy. Like, this created the truth community the way it is now. That event created the truth community. So, maybe they're a little less sloppy, but they don't need to be. Going back to what this other guy was saying. Because what I realized, when I heard this piece, is that most people aren't going to find out about this, the passport, or they're going to hear it and not think about it because they're in shock about the whole event. And the people who aren't willing to say this could be an inside job or this could be done by the government, the majority of people can't even go there, and so couldn't go there at that time, and maybe a little bit more now after years, and people have been won over by various things. But there are some people who will never go this far to blame the government, say our government's doing shit like this, and there's mass conspiracy behind this, the media's in on it, and everybody's complicit. They just can't believe that's possible. And, it would make them like flip the fuck out, right? So they just can't deal with it. So there's all those people, and they're going to believe whatever you tell them. They're going to rearrange their, understanding of the laws of physics, and, scientists and people are like, they're not going to call bullshit on any of this stuff. So there's those people, the people we call the sheeple. They'll say the government can do this or that, but, they have their lines that they won't cross. And then you have the people who will believe it, and they have been denuded. We've been denuded in one way or another because we don't have any way to change anything. It's going back to the guy talking to Elon Musk about Israel. I've known this for a while. There's nothing there. Like, you can post stuff on the internet. That's all you can do. And there's no system of justice. There's no system of investigation. There's no checks and balances anymore. There's no any of these things that the government's supposed to have. And so, like, this became very clear to me over the years. It took me a while to understand this, that this isn't about changing what is, because that's not going to happen. And if you did change what is, like, you can make some people accountable for some smaller level things, right? Whatever. But you can't change the overall system, because if you brought truth to this system, all of it would collapse. It's, our system is fed off of illusion and lies and deception. It's what keeps the system going. A system that should have collapsed long ago. It's a system that goes against God. When you bring truth to it, it falls apart, right? The whole illusion, like, all the things that we enjoy are part of the illusion. I mean, life on planet Earth is an illusion, even though it's 3D, third dimensional reality. It's physical. We can feel, we have our senses, so it feels real, but our soul is something else, right? Our soul is, our true essence, and our bodies and our lives and our personas and our egos and these things that are creation for physical life. This very sophisticated video game that we're in is an illusion. But beyond that, there's illusions in the illusion. And when you go against the divine will and you create these things that are not aligned with the divine process, then as soon as the truth comes out about it, it can't exist anymore. And then all of it disappears, right? Like, there's, at any point, our wealth can all disappear, because it's agreed upon wealth. It's not real wealth, right? I mean, gold is gold, but does it have any value when everybody's starving, right? I mean, no one gives a shit about gold. Like, it's shiny, right? Food has value to a starving person, to a thirsty person. I mean, you can, it's not hard to create a market for water in the desert, right? It's very easy to create the market already exists. But in terms of our debt-based economy and all of that, so, all these things can just collapse in a moment's notice. But, seeing this video, like, it's just an old video somebody sent me about the passport. There's my realizing this back in 2006, 5, whatever it was, 2005, 6, my kind of awakening to this. And, and I was aware of some things, and I was someone who was willing to go there because I didn't, hold this system in high regard, and people. So I could believe all these things, right? But now we've seen how they've dealt with it, right? Like the whole disinformation campaign, the whole censorship, right? And all the things that have happened. the fact checkers and what they'll deal with on social media, and then just saturating. The biggest thing they've done is saturating the so-called truth community with disinformation and bogus stuff and divisive stuff, and infusing it with all these dummies who aren't really critical thinkers. I mean, the truth community has been so diluted in terms of the quality of the minds and the consciousness of the people that are part of it, and they just believe anything. They make shit up, and then there's the whatever the whole QB, the Q thing, the QAnon thing, and all that stuff was just purposely just to discredit the whole thing, right? Alex Jones and all that stuff, his emotional outbursts and his just shill stuff that he does, and so all of these things are part of that, right? Like that's the degradation and the deballing and the profiling of the truth community to make it not something that's going to affect the system. The information's there. It's also a way for them to collect data on the people who are going to be problems later on. But when the system collapses in terms of food, in terms of any of these other things, that's when the rubber will meet the road. That's when you'll see the possibility of some kind of uprising. But that uprising will just take down the system. It won't create a better system. The system's going down one way or another. That's inevitable. Like all systems, all empires collapse, especially the ones that are based in lies. But, if it's a good system based in God, everything has its time, right? Everything has its time, its place. Things change. The earth itself changes. There'll be a point where the earth is uninhabitable. There's this period of time where there could be this physical life, and then all this goes into that, right? But there'll be a time where there isn't, the ability for biological creatures on this planet. There's other planets all throughout the universe. There's lots of them, and they, there's lots of suns, and not all of them can support physical life. So, these things all change, right? Ups and downs, ebbs and flows. And so collapse is inevitable, and certainly this system is on the verge of collapsing. And then, everything that goes along with it, right? But this is a binary system that is either on and it's, being embraced to whatever capacity, even on a forced level by everybody. We're all participating, or it's off, and then we're fucked in terms of, it's not like it can be partial. There'll be some remains of the system, but that's not the system, right? So there's the system as it functions now, and then it's off and it doesn't function anymore, and then everyone has to deal. And that's, pockets of the future, right? That's people dealing with that reality, that inevitability. Anyways, let's move on to the other stuff here. Okay, so it's Friday night, 7:30 p.m. I'm not going to get this video done till tomorrow morning. Pretty tired. I just want to cover these last things. I got a bunch of stuff I didn't get to. Bizarre Brooke Shields story. More on Sunny Hostin and her husband. And this great video about Don Lemon shitting on the morning Joe, kind of trying to, but failing. It's wonderful. But there's all these celebrities who lost their homes. All the celebrities impacted by the Los Angeles fires. Paris Hilton, Miles Teller, and more. And this shows you Eugene Levy, John Goodman, Leighton Meester, and Adam Brody. John Goodman, Billy Crystal, Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson, Steven Spielberg's, Ben Affleck's, Diana Keaton, Michael Keaton's, Jamie Lee Curtis's, Paris Hilton, Mark Hamill, and Miley Cyrus. They have these various celebrities here. Now, this is just as of Thursday. This came out Thursday morning. Here are some other celebrities, a little few videos here. So this is J.J. Redick, the coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. He used to have a podcast, Old Man of the Three, that I listened to from time to time. He was one of the Duke players that I really didn't like. Nobody liked those Duke players except the Duke fans. But he had a pretty good podcast. He's really somebody who was into basketball. And his kids are, I saw a podcast where he had some of the New York Knicks and his son doing a three-point contest. His son looked like he was, 10 years old maybe. And I think he was his oldest son. So he's got young kids. They had to evacuate. And their home burned down.
Just tell you guys, my wife got out really early. She She was actually on the other side, close to like mid-city, and came out outside and saw the fire. And she was with some people, and they were headed to the airport. And she's just like, I gotta go. And she went home, grabbed her nanny. This was all going on pregame, Tuesday, and was scrambling to find a hotel that had room for them. And so she got out of there, got the kids from school. They're safe. That's all that mattered. Didn't spend any time on Twitter for a long time. Tuesday and Tuesday night, just to get updates. I was on there a lot and kind of following along with everything that was happening. We got home because of some maintenance issues around 2:30 and went to the hotel, woke up at 7, and still had my coach's uniform on and headed up to the Palisades. I just kind of had to see it for myself, and I was not prepared. I was not prepared for what I saw. It is it's complete devastation and destruction. I had to go kind of a different way to the house, but I went through most of the village and it's all gone. And I don't think you can ever prepare yourself for something like that.
Okay, so he lost his house. This other guy, Milo Ferventa Megilgilgi.
And for many homeowners in and around LA, their piece of the American dream is really more of a nightmare tonight. There are homes up and down the coastline here for miles and miles burned down to their foundations. And this being the home of Hollywood, of course, it's everyday Californians, but they are not only.
You got these before and after photos.
Everyday Californians that are the victims.
Along a fire-scarred stretch of Malibu, we met up with Milo Ventimiglia, a 47-year-old father-to-be.
Oh, no.
And today, one of the first residents here to get a look at the damage.
Oh, man. Toast.
Home after home destroyed. And Milo's house wasn't one of the lucky ones.
I know you were aware the house was gone. What's it like to then stand here?
Heavy. You start thinking about, man, hits you so quick. You start thinking.
So anyways, it's not just the homes. You can rebuild homes. I mean, some people can't, like the rich people can. And then this land is then, there's all kinds of issues, right? I mean, this is, my wife was talking to me about all these people who lost their houses to flood in the hurricane in places that should never flood. Mountain areas in North Carolina, Georgia, these places, right? And now they have to rebuild their houses and get flood insurance, like it's a thing now, like it's mandatory. And they don't have any money to rebuild their house because their insurance doesn't cover it, because nobody thought that they were ever going to get flood damage when they live on the top of a mountain that got wiped out during the epic rains and the hurricane. And, people are talking about these things being man-made, by the controllers, which I'll address maybe at the end of this thing. And, that is whatever that is, right? But either way, these things are happening. And, all this land is becoming available. And the trees and the natural areas, I mean, that takes years to replenish any kind of infrastructure. I mean, these things that happen here in these, these various places in America, these cities and even rural areas, and to rebuild all that stuff, it takes years and so much money. And if things keep on just piling up like this, like it looks like it's gonna, whether it's happening purposefully or not, America's going to be broken. Like we're already broke. They had that whole infrastructure bill, which mostly is about looting money and, double dealing and kickbacks and things like that. And so that's where America's is at right now.
California's on fire once again. Only now, instead of burning up the red counties and the forested areas to the north, it's devastating portions of Los Angeles. Everybody's seeing it on the news. Every year we know the Santa Ana winds are going to blow. Every year we know
the Santa Ana winds are the worst.
There's going to be risk. So what is our governor doing to help stop the risk?
I bet it's nothing.
Virtually nothing.
Virtually nothing. I knew it was going to, but I was pretty sure it's going to be like very little or nothing.
Showing up at press conferences and waving his arms around and having long practiced monologues about, oh, it's someone else's fault, this or that. So
you blame Biden at what point?
it's time for the governor to either bear down or get out of the way because California keeps suffering. My county's up north, Car Fire, Camp Fire.
Okay, so Camp what?
Fire.
Oh, I thought you said something else. All right, so like this is getting ugly. Gavin Newsom, this might kill his candidacy because he's been a disaster. And I think maybe this is the kind of thing that buries him, but who knows? And the guy's so slippery. So this is Justine Bateman, who has aged really poorly. I'm not sure how old she is, but her brother has not aged, Jason Bateman. I believe it's a couple years younger than her. I don't know if he's had plastic surgery. And I always say kudos to those. I mean, plastic surgery is not, unless you have some kind of real, something bad happens, cleft lips, those things, things you're born with. But in terms of like just trying to prevent yourself from aging, it doesn't work. And, you're internally as old as you are, right? But, her eyes are messed up. Like she's kind of just, looks like a kind of a mess, right?
Joins me now. How are you feeling right now, Justine?
Hi. I'm pretty pissed, and I think a lot of people in Los Angeles are pissed. If you are going to run a city or run a state, you have to take care of the basics, and that's make sure that your fire and your police department are well funded. Make sure that you have, not only you have plans if there are emergencies in your area, you have rehearsed them, but also you have plans to mitigate the problems that you know are going to happen in that area. And for us, it's fire, earthquake, rain, and consequent mudslides.
So California and LA is like a death pit, right? What about the La Brea tar pits?
And if you're not doing everything you can to take care of those problems if they arise, then get out. You are useless to us. All those other things, all the other programs like Head Start and all of that, that's great for the community, that's after.
Well, that's debatable.
If you can't cover the basics, get out of our city. You are useless to us. You are a liability, and you have destroyed people's lives because you didn't do your job. You didn't do what you were hired for. You didn't do what we pay you for, and you should resign out of shame and responsibility for the people whose lives you've destroyed right now.
She's Michael J. Fox's brother on that show, my sister. She's giving it to him.
They won't resign at all. They don't have the dignity or the honor to do that. Why do you think that they don't do the basics? Do they just not?
See, this is where you get into people believing that this is done intentionally by the so-called controllers, right? Because, we know this happened in Hawaii. There was massive land grab. I mean, look at the places that got devastated. Hawaii got devastated. What was that? Was that a fire or earthquake? I can't remember. And then I could look it up later. But then, of course, the flood and the hurricanes. And, is this massive incompetence or is it intentional to move people to cities, do the Agenda 21 thing? I mean, we don't know. Like, how much is nature, how much is destiny, how much is planned by the powers that be. People say they know. People are like, oh, no, it's definitely them or whatever. It's not, whatever. And, there's things that look very suspicious. Like what they're saying here is that there's some graphic incompetence, and they've been having these fires every year. And if there is lack of preparation, a lack of, some things are just beyond people's control. And California is broke. I mean, people are leaving in droves, and I mean, it's a beautiful state. Like other than L.A., I mean, I went to the San Francisco area, amazing. Of course, the wet redwood forests. I mean, we went to Sequoia Forest, and then we drove through all the farmland, the part of California where the red state people live, the Republicans and farmers. Amazing, beautiful state, and just a massive economy there. And people are leaving in droves, and all the things that they've done wrong, and is that intentional? And, what's going on with that? Why are people leaving the blue states? And then, this massive land grab is going to be bought up by China or some other foreign powers, these things. So, but either way, there is an agenda here. And whether these things are intentional or not, or they're just allowing these things to happen, or they're contributing to making them happen. It fits the plan of getting people to live in Agenda 31 housing and give up on ownership of things. And, there's all this, the one issue that we have with our economy is that it's, there are promises like Social Security and Medicare and just your lifestyle that they can't give you anymore. Things that you think you're promised, things that they've said they've promised to you, they can't do it. Like, they've promised these things they can't deliver on. They spent all the money. They're looting the rest of the money. They know the economy's fucked. And so they got to give you a new deal. And one of the ways to give you a new deal is have these things happen, and then just, take people's stuff away and move them, take their homes, take their, their livelihoods, take their lifestyle away from them. And people are like, well, and they give you this option of, do you want to like die, or do you want to live in some sort of small apartment building, right? You used to own 3 houses, you used to own lots of acreage, you used to own, your own car, these things, and now you're going to be stuck in these little colony-like developments where you can't drive anywhere. You're stuck in a 15-minute city or something like this. And, like, how are they going to get you to buy into that? Remember, the WEF said that people will own nothing and be happy with that deal. Well, something's got to happen for them to accept a deal like that. And there are a lot of things happening. So, I'd lean to them contributing or making these things happen. But I know some of these things are just going to happen. If they're going to happen globally, because we've entered into a tumultuous time. And this is just the beginning. This is the year of chaos, right? And this is just the beginning of these things where, everything goes to shit because, in reality, the system can't deliver on its promises. It's reneging on its promises, right? So we'll see a little bit more Justine Bateman's.
Not do their job? Are they distracted with other things? Are they incompetent? What do you think it is?
I think when you're this incompetent, you don't understand you're incompetent.
Yeah, so good. It's true.
No, it's, like, incompetence is an excuse, and that makes it sound like, you're some, like some moron, like, in some sitcom or some comedy, and you're just, with them, and like, you're just stupid, and like, people can get mad at you, but like, well, you're just too stupid to, but if it's intentional, it's way worse, right? If it's part of some sort of plan. But people can't do anything about it. People have lost their ability to fight back, lost their ability, other than whining on the internet, that's all there is, right? Whether it's the truth community, whether it's left people, right people, if any of these various demographics, it's just that. People can whine and maybe at some point get angry enough to riot. But there's going to be massive population die-off, and, there's turbo cancer and all these things kicking in, all those, related chronic illnesses that are kicking in. I mean, it's just all going to hit at once. And it's, boom, 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 right? I mean, there's just the floods from the hurricane were just a couple months ago. Now you got this massive wildfire. Stuff that happened in Hawaii was, a year before that? And there's probably some other things I'm forgetting about. Again, that's after the whole pandemic and the whole thing, whatever the other things that happened. So, whatever this thing is man-made, it's all man-made, whether it's intentional or not. And then, the people are just like, fuck it. The leaders are just giving up, and, we can't, maintain this anymore. I mean, people have lost their way. Everyone's trying to grab their little piece of whatever before everything crashes. So, that's what's up. Anyways, I'm going to wrap this one up here. There'll probably be more to cover on this. And, I got these other things I'm going to cover tomorrow in the next video. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely important for the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.